Life has a way of magnifying the little things we do every day. Success and failure don't usually come from one big event. They come from habits repeated quietly over time. A good habit can lift you, a bad habit can limit you. The truth is, we don't decide our future. We decide our habits, and our habits decide our future. The real danger is that bad habits don't shout, they whisper. They creep in silently, feeling harmless in the moment. But over weeks, months, years, they break health. They break opportunity, they break potential. That's why the challenge is urgent: break bad habits before they break you. Here are 5 ways to do it. 1. Recognize the cost of your habits. The first step is awareness. Ask yourself, what is this habit really costing me? Staying up late might cost your energy. Procrastination might cost your goals. Overspending might cost your peace of mind. Write it down. Face it. When the price becomes real, the habit loses its disguise. 2. Replace. Don't just remove. If you tear out a habit without planting something new, the old one will return. Don't just quit scrolling endlessly on your phone. Replace that time with reading or learning. Don't just cut gossip. Replace it with gratitude and meaningful conversations. The key is substitution, not subtraction. 3. Make discipline easier than temptation. Most habits survive because they're convenient. Change the environment. Put healthy food within reach. Place your alarm across the room. Unsubscribe from distractions. Don't leave success to willpower alone. Design your surroundings so that the easiest option is the right one. 4. Start small. Stay consistent. Chains aren't broken in a single pull. They're weakened link by link. Don't overwhelm yourself. Start with something small: 10 push-ups, a few dollars saved, 15 minutes of focused work. Small disciplines practiced daily become unstoppable momentum. Remember, small hinges swing big doors. 5. Create accountability and reward. Habits grow in the dark, but they die in the light. Tell someone your commitment. Let them check in. Join a group with the same goals. And celebrate progress. Reward yourself when you succeed. Accountability turns private weakness into shared strength, and reward makes progress feel worth repeating. Bad habits are like slow leaks in a boat. Ignore them and eventually you sink. But if you patch them now, you can sail farther, faster, stronger. Break the habits that are breaking you, and you'll free yourself to live the life you were meant to live. Every bad habit in your life has a price tag, and the price is always higher than you think. The tragedy is most people never calculate the cost. They never take out the pen and paper to ask themselves, what is this really doing to me? They see the momentary pleasure, the temporary comfort, the quick escape, but they ignore the long-term bill that eventually shows up at their door. You see, habits are never free. They are either an investment or a debt. A good habit pays you back with interest over time, but a bad habit keeps charging you more and more until you wake up one day broken spirit, broken health, or broken opportunity. Think about how life works. Every day you exchange your time, your energy, your focus, your potential for something. If that exchange is with a good habit, you get stronger, wiser, richer in return. If that exchange is with a bad habit, you get weaker, duller, and poorer. The exchange always happens, whether you notice it or not. The person who smokes every day isn't just burning tobacco, they're burning years of life, burning lung capacity, burning the ability to play with their grandchildren without gasping for air. The person who procrastinates isn't just delaying a task, they're delaying a dream, delaying a future, delaying the respect they could have earned from themselves and others. The person who spends recklessly isn't just buying shoes or gadgets, they're trading away financial peace, trading away security, trading away the freedom to make choices in the future. The dangerous thing about bad habits is how small the cost looks in the moment. It's just one more cookie, just one more episode, just one more hour on the phone, just one more dollar wasted, just one more day skipped. And on that single day, it doesn't look like much. You eat the cookie, and nothing changes. You skip the workout, and you're still the same. You put off the project, and the world doesn't end. But over weeks, months, years, the tiny costs compound into massive losses. It's like a leak in the roof. One drop of water on the floor doesn't look dangerous. But let the leak continue, and one day the ceiling caves in. That's how habits destroy lives, slowly, silently, and visibly. And by the time you see the full cost, the damage is already deep. So the first step to breaking bad habits is to sit down and actually calculate. Don't just feel bad about the habit. Measure what it's taking from you. Be honest. Write it down. If you waste 3 hours a day on distractions, what is that in a week? 21 hours. In a month, over 80 hours. In a year, more than 1,000 hours. That's enough time to learn a new language, start a side business, write a book, transform your body, or build the life you dream of. Instead, it's swallowed by scrolling, games, gossip, and television. 1,000 hours is the price tag of your distraction. How much has that cost you already? Think about health. If you choose bad food every day, what's the price? At first, maybe it's just a little fatigue, a little weight gain, Nothing dramatic. But over years, the body keeps the receipts. The price becomes high blood pressure, diabetes, aching joints, surgeries, prescriptions, medical bills, shortened lifespan. The sandwich seemed cheap. The soda seemed small. But the cost, when added up, is measured in decades of health and tens of thousands of dollars in treatment. When you recognize the true cost, suddenly the habit doesn't look cheap anymore. Look at relationships. A bad habit of criticism, sarcasm, or neglect might not seem destructive in a single moment. You snap at your partner, you ignore your child, you dismiss a friend, you excuse it. It's just one time. They'll get over, and maybe they do. But repeat it for years, and the cost is intimacy lost, trust broken, love eroded. Relationships don't break from one storm, they break from constant small cracks that are never repaired. A bad relational habit is like termites in a house. You don't see the damage until the structure collapses. Look at money. Overspending, impulse buying, failing to save, it doesn't ruin you in one day. But $10 here, $20 there, hundreds over months, thousands over years. Add interest on debt, late fees, missed opportunities to invest, and suddenly a lifetime of financial peace has been stolen by a habit of careless spending. The cost isn't just money, it's the stress, the arguments, the sleepless nights wondering how to make ends meet. That is the real price of bad financial habits. But here's the thing, most people never calculate the cost because they're too focused on the reward. The cigarette feels relaxing, the junk food feels delicious, the phone feels entertaining, the procrastination feels comfortable. And the brain clings to that short-term reward while ignoring the long-term cost. That's why you must force yourself to bring the cost to the surface. Make it visible, make it undeniable. One powerful exercise is to project forward. Ask yourself, if I keep this habit for 1 more year, what will it cost me? If I keep it for 5 more years, where will I be? If I keep it for 10 years, what will my life look like? Take smoking, for example. 1 year a cough, a little less energy. 5 years chronic shortness of breath, lower fitness. 10 years high risk of cancer, thousands of dollars wasted, quality of life severely reduced. Or procrastination 1 year, missed deadlines. 5 years, stalled career. 10 years, dreams unfulfilled, regret heavy on your shoulders. Project forward and see the cost. Don't just think about the habit in the moment. Think about the compound interest of destruction it creates. Another exercise is to ask, what am I giving up because of this habit? Every bad habit steals from something else. If you waste hours in distraction, what relationships could have been deepened in that time? If you waste money on impulse, what investments could you have made? If you waste energy on laziness, what skills could you have built? The cost of a bad habit is not just what it gives you. It's also what it takes away, the opportunity cost. And opportunity cost is always far greater than the visible cost. Think of it this way, every habit is like a trade. If you watch 3 hours of television, you traded away 3 hours of building your future. If you eat unhealthy food, you traded away strength and vitality. If you criticize instead of encouraging, you traded away connection and trust. When you see the habit as a trade, you suddenly realize you've been making unfair trades your whole life, giving up diamonds for pennies, futures for moments, lifelong rewards for temporary comforts. And once you see that, it becomes harder to accept the habit. The mind has a powerful way of protecting itself from guilt, rationalization. That's how habits survive. You tell yourself, it's not that bad, just one time. Everyone does it. I deserve this. I'll change later. But when you recognize the true cost, those excuses lose their strength. What is the cost of just one more? What is the cost of later? Later never comes, and just one more always adds up. Imagine your life as a bank account. Every good habit makes a deposit. Every bad habit makes a withdrawal. Some people wake up at 30, 40, 50 and wonder why their account is empty, why their health is failing, why their finances are a mess, why their relationships are broken, why their confidence is gone. It wasn't one big withdrawal. It was small daily withdrawals they never noticed. Every cigarette, every wasted hour, every dollar thrown away, every angry word. The account is empty because the withdrawals were constant. Recognizing the cost means finally checking the statement and seeing where your money, your energy, your life has been going. That's why some people change only after a wake-up call. A doctor says, if you don't stop, you won't live long. A spouse says, if you don't change, I'm leaving. A boss says, if you don't improve, you're fired. Suddenly, the cost is undeniable. But why wait until the pain is unbearable? Why wait until the price is too high to pay? Recognize it now when you still have time, when you still have options, when you can still turn the direction of your life. Recognizing the cost also gives you power over temptation. Next time you feel the urge to indulge a habit, pause and ask, what will this cost me? That cookie might cost another year of struggle with weight. That cigarette might cost another step toward disease. That wasted hour might cost another opportunity slipping by. When the brain connects the habit not to pleasure but to pain, not to relief but to loss, the attraction begins to fade. The cost becomes louder than the craving. The people who master their lives are not the ones who never feel tempted, but the ones who have trained themselves to see through the illusion of cheap rewards. They've trained themselves to recognize the real cost behind the curtain. They look at the cigarette and see the hospital bed. They look at the wasted hour and see the lost opportunity. They look at the reckless spending and see the future of stress and debt. They look at the criticism and see the broken trust. When you see the cost clearly, you no longer see the habit as a friend, you see it as an enemy. Human nature does not like emptiness. Whenever you remove something, something else rushes in to fill the space. That is why simply trying to stop a bad habit almost never works. You say you will stop smoking, stop overeating, stop wasting time, stop procrastinating, stop scrolling, stop gambling. And for a while, maybe you succeed. You grit your teeth, you clench your fists, you fight with your own mind. But eventually, when life gets stressful, when the energy dips, when the old triggers reappear, the empty space pulls you back into the same behavior. Because the mind cannot live with a vacuum, it demands a replacement. That is why the secret to lasting change is not just to remove but to replace. When you rip out weeds from a garden and walk away, what happens? Do flowers suddenly bloom in their place? Of course not. The weeds grow back, often stronger, because the soil is open and unprotected. But if you rip out the weeds and then plant good seeds, water them, nurture them, the garden transforms. Habits work the same way. Bad habits are weeds. You cannot just rip them out and leave bare ground. You must deliberately plant good habits in their place. Otherwise, the weeds return and choke out your progress. Consider the habit of smoking. A person tries to stop. They throw away the cigarettes, they fight the cravings, they tell themselves no. But what they miss is not just the nicotine, it is the ritual, the hand-to-mouth action, the social aspect, the moment of pause in their day. If those needs are not replaced with something else, chewing gum, deep breathing, a walk, a healthier ritual, then the pull of the old habit will drag them back. Removal without replacement creates a vacuum, and the vacuum draws the old habit right back in. Think about people who try to quit drinking by simply avoiding alcohol. They might manage for days, weeks, even months, but what they really miss is not just the drink, it is the relief, the escape, the way it fills their evenings. If they do not replace the drink with a healthier form of relaxation, a hobby, exercise, meaningful social connection, then eventually the temptation feels overwhelming. Because the brain says, you took away my reward, what did you give me in its place? If nothing new is offered, the brain will drag you back to the old. That is why diets fail. People cut out all the foods they love and then live in misery, staring at the empty plate, waiting for willpower to last forever. But willpower is like a battery. It drains with use. If you don't replace unhealthy food with delicious, nutritious alternatives, the void becomes unbearable. You cannot live forever by saying no. At some point, the body demands a yes. And if you have not prepared a good yes, the bad habit returns. The mind is not designed to live without habits. Habits create structure, predictability, rhythm. If you remove one, you must give the mind another. If you stop wasting hours on your phone, but do not decide what to do with those hours, the phone will call you back. If you stop gossiping, but do not learn how to start uplifting conversations, silence will feel uncomfortable, and the gossip will return. If you stop procrastinating on one task, but do not schedule clear actions, the empty time will attract procrastination again. Removal is temporary, replacement is permanent. The real strategy is substitution. If you want to stop a destructive behavior, find a constructive one that meets the same need in a healthier way. Identify the trigger, the craving, the reward behind the habit. Then ask, what else could give me that reward without the damage? If you scroll endlessly because you are bored, replace scrolling with reading or learning. If you snack because you are stressed, replace the snack with a walk, a workout, or journaling. If you procrastinate because the task feels overwhelming, replace avoidance with breaking the task into smaller, simpler steps. You do not just close a door, you open another one that leads to a better place. This is why people who try to quit habits cold turkey so often relapse. They focus entirely on fighting the old habit instead of building a new one. They use all their energy to say no, but forget to give themselves something to say yes to. It is like trying to hold your breath. You can resist for a while, but sooner or later, you must breathe. The lungs demand it. In the same way, the mind demands habits, routines, behaviors. If you do not provide a healthy one, the unhealthy one rushes back. Replacement works because it gives your brain a new path to walk on. Imagine you have a dirt trail in the forest that you have walked for years. It is well worn, easy to follow. That is your bad habit. If you decide to stop walking on it, you can avoid it for a while, but the trail is still there, ready, tempting. However, if you start walking on a new path every day, over time the new trail becomes clearer, easier, more natural. Meanwhile, the old trail begins to fade, grass grows, branches block it. That is how replacement works. You don't just stop using the old path, you build a better one. You must also make the replacement appealing. A weak replacement will not last. If you tell yourself you will replace television with staring at a wall, that is not appealing. If you tell yourself you will replace sugar with bland, tasteless food, you will not stick with it. The replacement must be something that excites you, something you look forward to, something that actually rewards you. Otherwise, the old habit will still win because it feels better. A weak yes cannot fight a strong yes. To replace successfully, your new habit must carry its own reward. Take, for example, someone who is addicted to social media because it gives them connection, novelty, stimulation. Telling them to just stop is like telling them to live in isolation. But if they replace it with real-life conversations, meaningful meetups, a creative hobby that stimulates the brain, suddenly the reward is met in a richer, deeper way. The brain learns, this feels even better than scrolling. Now the replacement has strength. The principle works in every area of life. If you stop wasting money on impulse buys, but don't replace the thrill of shopping with the satisfaction of saving, investing, or building something meaningful, the spending will creep back in. If you stop staying up late watching shows, but don't replace that time with productive morning routines or meaningful rest, the late nights will return. If you stop negative self-talk, but don't replace it with affirmations, gratitude, and constructive thoughts, the negativity will sneak back. Removal is fragile, replacement is durable. What makes replacement so powerful is that it changes your identity. When you only remove, you still see yourself as the person who wants the habit, but is trying to resist it. You see yourself as a smoker who is not smoking, a spender who is not spending, a procrastinator who is not procrastinating. That identity is fragile, and one stressful day can shatter it. But when you replace, you shift your identity. You are not a smoker trying to quit. You are a runner who values health. You are not a spender holding back. You are an investor building wealth. You are not a procrastinator resisting laziness. You are a doer who takes action. Replacement changes who you are, not just what you resist. This principle even applies to the way you think. If you remove a negative thought, it will circle back. The mind cannot hold emptiness. But if you replace it with a positive thought, a new perspective, a gratitude, the negative loses its grip. If you remove worry without replacing it with faith or preparation, the worry returns. If you remove doubt without replacing it with confidence built through action, the doubt grows louder. Even thoughts must be replaced, not just removed. Another reason replacement works is because habits are built on cues. Every habit has a trigger. You feel bored, stressed, lonely, tired. That trigger demands a response. If you only remove, you leave the trigger unsatisfied. But if you replace, you give the trigger a new answer. When you feel stressed, instead of smoking, you breathe deeply or go for a run. When you feel bored, instead of scrolling, you read or learn. When you feel lonely, instead of binge watching, you call a friend. The trigger is satisfied, but in a better way. Replacement gives your brain a new script to follow. The challenge is to be intentional about your replacements. They don't happen by accident. You must plan them. Before you even try to quit a bad habit, ask yourself, what will I do instead when the urge comes? If you cannot answer that question, you are not ready. The mind does not respect an empty command. It respects a new direction. That is why the people who succeed are those who prepare replacements before they begin. They don't just throw away the cigarettes, they stock up on gum, water, exercise routines. They don't just delete social media, they schedule books, courses, projects to fill the time. They don't just stop gossiping, they prepare uplifting conversations and questions to guide new discussions. Preparation is power. Over time, the replacement becomes natural. At first, it feels forced. At first, you must remind yourself, you must push yourself. But the brain learns through repetition. What feels unnatural today will feel automatic tomorrow if you repeat it. That is why replacement must be consistent. Do it once, it feels strange. Do it 10 times, it feels familiar. Do it 100 times, it feels like you. And when the replacement feels like you, the old habit loses its grip. What makes this beautiful is that the replacement not only kills the bad habit, it builds something new in its place. You don't just stop destroying your health, you start building strength. You don't just stop wasting time, you start creating value. You don't just stop draining money, you start growing wealth. You don't just stop breaking relationships, you start building them. Replacement turns a loss into a gain, a subtraction into multiplication. Most people lose to their bad habits, not because they are weak, but because their environment is stronger than their willpower. It is not that they don't want to change, it is that the temptation is always closer, easier, more convenient. The cookie is on the counter, The phone is in the hand. The TV remote is on the couch. The distractions are a single click away. Discipline feels like climbing uphill, while temptation feels like sliding downhill. Human nature always looks for the path of least resistance. If the easiest option is the wrong one, people will choose it again and again. That is why the secret is to flip the script, to design your life so that discipline becomes easier than temptation. Willpower is like a muscle. It can get stronger with use, but it also gets tired. You can use it in bursts, but you cannot rely on it forever. If you depend only on willpower to fight temptation, eventually the muscle gives out. At the end of a long day after stress, fatigue, decision-making, your willpower is at its weakest. That is why people stick to diets in the morning and break them at night. That is why people say they will work out tomorrow but skip it after work. The environment takes advantage of the moment when willpower is low. The cookie in the kitchen does not care about your goals. The phone in your hand does not care about your focus. The show on the screen does not care about your dreams. They wait silently, knowing that eventually your willpower will run out. But imagine changing the environment. Imagine making the good choice the easy choice and the bad choice the hard one. If the cookie is not in the house, you cannot eat it at midnight. If the alarm clock is across the room, you cannot hit snooze without standing up. If your workout clothes are laid out, you cannot miss the signal to move. If the social media apps are deleted, you cannot scroll without extra effort. Suddenly, discipline no longer requires massive willpower because the temptation has been pushed farther away and the right choice has been brought closer. Think about how powerful this principle really is. Why are casinos so successful? They design the environment to make gambling effortless. Bright lights, no clocks, easy chips, drinks delivered, music pumping. Everything is arranged so that the path of least resistance leads to losing money. Why are fast food chains everywhere? Because they know hunger seeks the easiest solution, and a drive-through at every corner makes the unhealthy choice faster than cooking a healthy meal. Why do people binge watch shows? Because the platform Auto plays the next episode in 5 seconds. It removes friction. No decision, no effort. Just sit there and consume. The environment wins, not the person's will. If you want to break bad habits, you must play the same game but in reverse. You must design your environment so that the healthy choice is automatic and the destructive choice is inconvenient. This is not about having superhuman strength. It is about arranging the battlefield so that you win before the fight even begins. Take food as an example. If your fridge is full of junk every time you open it, temptation screams at you. You fight, resist. Maybe you win a few times, but eventually you give in. Now imagine if the fridge is full of fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, water. Imagine the snacks are cut and ready. The junk food is not even in the house. When hunger strikes, what is the easiest option? The healthy food. The bad choice has been removed from reach, and suddenly discipline feels natural. Take productivity. If your phone is buzzing with notifications, every vibration pulls your focus. You fight it, but curiosity wins. One quick check turns into 30 wasted minutes. But what if you turn off notifications, put the phone in another room, and keep only your work tools in front of you? Suddenly, the easiest option is to keep working because distraction is harder to access. You didn't become more disciplined. You just made discipline easier. This is the principle of friction. Add friction to the bad habits, remove friction from the good ones. If you want to watch less television, unplug it after each use, put the remote in a drawer, sign out of streaming apps, make it inconvenient. If you want to exercise more, pack your gym bag the night before, place it by the door, schedule the time in advance, make it convenient. Human beings follow the path of least resistance. Make sure that path leads to growth, not decline. Think about the people who seem extremely disciplined. To outsiders, they look like they have iron will. In reality, most of them have just built systems. They have arranged their homes, their schedules, their routines so that the right action is the default action. A person who runs every morning does not negotiate with themselves each day. They already laid out the shoes, already set the route, already built the trigger. A person who eats clean does not battle cravings at the store. They simply do not buy what they don't want to eat. They designed their environment so that the bad habit never enters the house. This is not superhuman discipline. It is intelligent design. The problem is most people design their lives in reverse. They surround themselves with temptations and then wonder why they keep losing. They keep cookies in the pantry, apps on the phone, distractions in plain sight, friends who enable their weakness. Then they say, I just don't have discipline. No, they don't have design. They left discipline to chance, and chance always favors temptation. If you want to win, think of every habit like a game. Ask yourself, how can I tilt the game board in my favor? If you want to read more, put books by your bed, your desk, your couch. If you want to spend less, cut the credit cards, delete shopping apps, leave cash at home. If you want to work out, join a gym near your office. Make it easier to go than to skip. The small decisions of design determine the big outcomes of life. There is also the principle of default. Human beings follow defaults because they require no thought. That is why subscription companies keep charging you, because the default is auto-renewal. That is why people stay in bad habits. They never reset their defaults. You can use this power for yourself. If you make saving money automatic, the default is discipline. If you prepare healthy meals in advance, the default is eating well. If you set your calendar for focused work, the default is productivity. The more you automate, the less you leave to fragile willpower. Another strategy is to create friction at the point of decision. If you want to stop drinking soda, don't keep it in your fridge. If you want to stop overspending, delete your payment information from websites. If you want to stop wasting time on social media, log out after each use. Every extra step of friction creates a pause, a moment to reconsider, a chance to choose better. People say they cannot control themselves, but often the truth is they never added friction. They made temptation too smooth, too fast, too easy. Slow it down, and you give yourself power back. This approach also respects the limits of human energy. No matter how motivated you are, there will be days when you are tired, stressed, distracted. On those days, if temptation is close and discipline is far, you will lose. But if discipline is close and temptation is far, you will win even in weakness. Success is not about being strong every day. It is about designing life so that even on weak days, you still move in the right direction. It is also important to remember that environment is not just physical. It is also social. If you surround yourself with people who normalize bad habits, those habits become easier. If your friends waste time, spend recklessly, gossip constantly, then temptation is built into your social world. But if you surround yourself with people who read, invest, build, exercise, learn, then discipline becomes easier. You don't need to resist. Peer pressure does the work for you. The people around you tilt the board either toward growth or decline. Choose them wisely. This is why community programs work, why group classes work, why accountability partners work. They change the environment, not just the individual. When you commit to showing up for someone else, discipline becomes easier than the discomfort of letting them down. When you are in an environment where everyone is striving, the current carries you forward. That is the power of environment design. It can turn discipline from a lonely battle into a natural flow. People overestimate how much control they have in the moment and underestimate how much control they have in advance. In the moment, temptation is strong. In advance, you can design the battlefield. In the moment, you fight with emotion. In advance, you plan with logic. In the moment, you are weak. In advance, you are strong. That is why the most successful people do not fight in the moment. They win before the battle begins. They prepare, they arrange, they design. If you want to break bad habits, do not just promise yourself you will be stronger next time. Instead, make it harder for temptation to reach you and make it easier for discipline to guide you. Every decision you make in advance is a victory you don't need to fight for later. Every barrier you place in front of temptation is energy saved for building something better. Every convenience you attach to discipline is a step closer to consistency. The truth is, life is already tilted. Companies, industries, advertisers all design the world to make bad habits easy. Junk food is cheaper, faster, closer. Entertainment is endless, instant, addictive. Distractions are free and abundant. The world is not neutral. It is tilted toward weakness. If you want to win, you must tilt it back in your favor. You must design your home, your schedule, your tools, your relationships, so that the slope runs toward discipline, not temptation. Then, even when you are tired, distracted, weak, you still slide in the right direction. The mistake most people make when they want to change is they try to do it all at once. They see the mountain, and they want to jump from the bottom to the top in a single leap. They say, starting tomorrow, I will never eat sugar again. I will exercise 2 hours every day. I will save half my income. I will wake up at 4 a.m. I will read a book a week. I will transform my life overnight. The passion is strong, the intention is real, but the plan is unrealistic. And so they burn out after a week, fall back into old patterns, and declare that change is impossible. The truth is, change is possible, but it never happens in giant leaps. It happens in small, consistent steps that compound over time until they create momentum so strong that it carries you to the top of the mountain without you even realizing how far you've climbed. Think of how rivers carve valleys. A single drop of water is nothing, but drop after drop, day after day, year after year, the river cuts through solid rock. Consistency beats intensity. Small, repeated actions break down even the hardest obstacles. The same is true for your habits, your health, your finances, your relationships, your success. You do not need to start with everything. You need to start with something. One small discipline, one small habit, one small commitment, done consistently, will change your life more than any burst of extreme effort followed by collapse. Imagine someone who never exercises suddenly deciding they will run 10 miles every day. Maybe they make it the first day, maybe even the second, but soon the body rebels, the motivation fades, and the goal is abandoned. Compare that to someone who decides, I will walk for 10 minutes every day. It is so small that it feels almost silly. But they do it, and because it is small, they keep doing it. 10 minutes becomes 15, 15 becomes 20, walking becomes jogging, jogging becomes running. A year later, without overwhelming themselves, they are running miles with ease. The difference is not the size of the first step, it is the consistency of the steps that followed. This principle applies to every part of life. If you want to improve your finances, you do not need to save half your paycheck immediately. Start with 1%. Save $1, then 5, then 10. As you build the habit, as you see the small victories, you gain momentum. That momentum makes it natural to increase. The person who tries to overhaul everything at once rarely lasts. The person who starts small and stays consistent rarely fails. If you want to improve your mind, you do not need to read a book a day. Start with 1 page. 1 page a day is 365 pages a year. That is a full book. 2 pages a day is 2 books. Over 5 years, that is 10 books. And what happens after you start with 1 page, you read 2, then 5, then 10. Small actions grow naturally. The hardest part is not reading 100 pages. The hardest part is opening the book. Start small and the rest follows. Consistency also trains your identity. When you do something small but consistent, you prove something to yourself. You say, I am the type of person who does this. A single workout does not make you fit, but it tells you, I am someone who shows up to exercise. A single dollar saved does not make you rich, but it tells you, I am someone who takes care of my money. A single kind word does not build a marriage, but it tells you, I am someone who chooses love. Identity is built not by dramatic events, but by small, repeated actions. And once identity is built, consistency becomes effortless. The key is to lower the barrier so much that success feels easy. If you say, I will write a book, you may procrastinate forever. If you say, I will write 1 sentence a day, suddenly it feels manageable. And what happens when you write 1 sentence? Often you write 2, then a paragraph, then a page. Starting small tricks the brain into movement. Movement creates momentum. Momentum builds progress. The mistake is waiting for motivation to sustain massive action. Motivation fades. But consistency builds habit, and habit sustains without motivation. Consider the power of compounding. 1 penny doubled every day becomes over $5 million in a month. That is the power of small multiplied by time. Habits work the same way. 1 push-up a day will not change your body, but if it leads to 2, then 5, then 20, over time the compound effect transforms you. 1 healthy meal will not change your health, but 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes a lifestyle, and the lifestyle changes everything. The results are invisible at first, but they are inevitable if you stay consistent. This is where most people fail. They look for quick results, and when they do not see them, they quit. They say, I've been exercising for a week, and I see no change. I've been saving for a month, and I'm still broke. I've been reading for a few days, and I'm not smarter yet. They ignore the law of the harvest. You do not plant a seed today and eat fruit tomorrow. You plant, you water, you wait. The growth is hidden before it becomes visible. Consistency is the water that keeps the seed alive until the breakthrough comes. Think of bamboo. For years, nothing seems to happen. You water, you wait, you see nothing above the ground. But under the soil, roots are spreading wide and deep. Then, suddenly, in a short burst, bamboo shoots up to incredible heights. That is how consistency works. You may not see results for weeks, months, even years, but underground, change is happening. And one day, the results appear so quickly that people call it overnight success. But it was not overnight. It was built day after day in small, unseen acts of consistency. Another advantage of starting small is that it bypasses resistance. The brain resists big, overwhelming goals. It feels threatened. It fears failure. It postpones action. But the brain does not resist small. It says, I can do 1 push-up. I can read 1 page. I can save $1. And once you begin, you often do more than you planned. The small step breaks the inertia, and inertia is the greatest enemy of progress. A rocket uses the most fuel at launch, not in orbit. The hardest part is starting. Small steps make starting easy. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Many people do not trust their own word. They promise themselves change but break the promise over and over. They start diets and quit. They start goals and abandon them. Each broken promise damages self-belief. But when you set a small goal and keep it, you rebuild that trust. You say, I said I would walk for 5 minutes, and I did. I said I would read 1 page, and I did. Each small success strengthens belief. And belief is the foundation of transformation. It is better to do something small consistently than something big occasionally. Reading 1 page every day is better than reading 100 pages once a month. Saving $1 every day is better than saving $50 once and quitting. Exercising for 10 minutes every day is better than exercising for 2 hours once and stopping, because occasional effort does not build habit, but consistent effort does. Life rewards what you do consistently, not what you do occasionally. When you start small, you also reduce the risk of failure. Big goals often lead to big disappointments. But small goals are easy wins. Those wins build confidence, and confidence creates courage for bigger steps. Success breeds success. The path to extraordinary achievement is built on ordinary daily actions. No one becomes a master overnight. They become a master by showing up every day, practicing, learning, improving. One brick at a time builds the castle. Consistency has another secret power that outlasts emotion. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions rise and fall. You feel inspired one day, lazy the next. If you rely on motivation, you will quit when the emotion fades. But consistency is not about how you feel. It is about what you do. The person who succeeds is not the one who always feels motivated. It is the one who acts even when they do not feel like it. And the best way to make that possible is to keep the action small enough that it feels doable no matter what. A small step can be taken even on the hardest day. And on the hardest day, that small step is the difference between staying on track and falling behind. Over time, the accumulation of small steps creates an unstoppable force. Imagine a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it is tiny, barely moving. But as it rolls, it gathers more snow, more weight, more speed. Eventually, it becomes massive, unstoppable. That is what happens when you start small and stay consistent. What feels insignificant at first becomes powerful, unstoppable momentum that carries you farther than you ever imagined. People admire the great achievements of others and think they are out of reach. They see the author of many books, the athlete in peak condition, the investor with great wealth, the speaker with great influence. They think I could never do that. But they forget that every great achievement was built from small beginnings. The author started with one sentence. The athlete started with one workout. The investor started with one saved dollar. The speaker started with one speech. Greatness is nothing more than small things done consistently over time. That is why you should not despise small beginnings. Do not laugh at one push-up, $1, one page, one kind word. Those are seeds, and seeds carry forests inside them. The small step you take today may look invisible, but it carries a future you cannot yet see. Consistency is the water and sunlight that allow that future to grow. Without consistency, the seed dies. With consistency, it flourishes. The beauty of small, consistent actions is that they are within everyone's reach. Not everyone can lift heavy weights today, but everyone can move their body for 5 minutes. Not everyone can save $1,000 today, but everyone can save one. Not everyone can read 100 books this year, but everyone can read a page. The difference between those who change and those who don't is not who had the biggest goal, but who had the smallest step and stuck with it. Motivation is a beautiful spark. It feels good when it comes. It lifts you. It makes you believe you can conquer the world. But the truth about motivation is that it is temporary. It comes and goes like the wind. And if your progress depends only on the days you feel motivated, you will never reach the heights you are capable of. The real driver of achievement is not motivation, it is discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It is waking up and keeping your promises to yourself on the days you are tired, on the days you are uninspired, on the days when no one is watching. Discipline is the bridge between goals and results, between dreams and reality, between intention and transformation. Think of the athlete. There are days when they feel powerful, days when they are inspired, days when the workout feels effortless. But ask any champion and they will tell you that most days are not like that. Most days, their body feels sore, their mind wants to stay in bed, their energy feels low. What separates the champion from the average person is not that they always feel motivated, it is that they show up anyway. They have trained their discipline to be stronger than their feelings, and that is why they win. Motivation is about how you feel, discipline is about what you do. Feelings are unreliable, but actions create results. Look at any area of success, business, health, art, relationships, and you will find the same principle. The successful entrepreneur does not wait until they feel motivated to work on their business plan. They show up daily, make the calls, study the numbers, take the risks. The musician does not wait for inspiration to practice scales. They put in the hours whether or not inspiration is present. The student does not wait to feel motivated to study. They sit down, open the book, and discipline carries them through. Those who rely on motivation are inconsistent, and inconsistency kills progress. Those who rely on discipline create consistency. And consistency creates results. Motivation is emotional fuel, and like fuel in a car, it burns quickly. Discipline is the engine itself, the mechanism that keeps moving whether the fuel tank is full or empty. If you have only motivation, you will stall the moment it fades. If you have discipline, you keep going no matter what, and eventually, momentum becomes its own reward. Once you learn to depend on discipline instead of waiting for motivation, you discover a secret freedom. You are no longer a slave to your moods, no longer dependent on external inspiration, no longer vulnerable to the ups and downs of energy. You do what is required, and the doing itself produces results, which then create new energy, new confidence, new opportunities. Discipline is not punishment, though many see it that way. Discipline is actually self-respect. It is the act of saying to yourself, my goals matter enough that I will not abandon them just because I do not feel like working today. It is saying, my future matters more than my current comfort. It is choosing long-term gain over short-term pleasure. That is not punishment, that is power. Every time you choose discipline, you are casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. You are proving to yourself that you can be trusted, that your word means something, that your standards matter. Motivation makes promises, but discipline keeps them. The reason discipline feels hard is because it demands sacrifice. Sacrifice of ease, sacrifice of comfort, sacrifice of indulgence. But every sacrifice you make for discipline is an investment in your future. Waking up early when you want to sleep in is a sacrifice, but the productivity you gain compounds into achievement. Saying no to junk food is a sacrifice, but the health and energy you gain build a stronger life. Saving money instead of spending it is a sacrifice, but the financial freedom you gain creates peace and opportunity. Every act of discipline trades something small now for something greater later. The undisciplined person chooses pleasure now and pain later. The disciplined person chooses discomfort now and reward later. That difference is everything. The beauty of discipline is that it becomes habit, and once it becomes habit, it no longer feels like discipline. The first days of waking up early feel difficult, but after weeks, your body adapts and it becomes natural. The first days of exercising feel exhausting, but after months, it feels incomplete not to move your body. The first days of saving money feel restrictive, but after time, it feels empowering to control your finances. At first, discipline feels like resistance, but then it transforms into identity. And once it becomes identity, it no longer takes effort. You no longer force yourself to do it. You simply are the kind of person who does it. This is why discipline is more valuable than motivation. Motivation comes from outside. It comes from videos, speeches, books, encouragement. Discipline comes from inside. It is the choice you make regardless of what is happening outside. Motivation may start the fire, but only discipline keeps it burning when the winds of life blow against you. Ask yourself who is more likely to succeed. The person who acts only when they feel motivated, or the person who acts every single day, no matter what? The answer is obvious. Life rewards persistence, not enthusiasm. Life rewards discipline, not occasional bursts of motivation. Discipline also creates freedom. It may sound paradoxical because people associate discipline with restriction, but discipline is actually the path to true freedom. The disciplined person who controls their spending is free from debt. The disciplined person who takes care of their health is free from disease and weakness. The disciplined person who practices their craft is free to express their talent at the highest level. The undisciplined person who indulges in every desire, who waits for motivation, who avoids responsibility is actually enslaved to bad habits, enslaved to external circumstances, enslaved to fleeting emotions. Discipline may feel like a cage at first, but in reality, it is the key that unlocks the door to lasting freedom. Another power of discipline is that it builds resilience. When you practice discipline, you are training yourself to act in spite of difficulty. You are building the muscle of perseverance. Every time you push through when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your ability to face bigger challenges. Discipline trains you not to collapse at the first sign of discomfort. It trains you to endure. And endurance is the secret to greatness, because all worthwhile achievements take longer than expected. The person without discipline gives up when motivation fades. The person with discipline keeps going until the finish line appears. Think of Thomas Edison. He tried thousands of times to create the light bulb. Do you think he felt motivated every single time? Of course not. But he had discipline. He kept showing up, experiment after experiment, failure after failure, until success came. Think of writers who produce books year after year. Do you think they feel inspired every day? No. They sit at the desk, they write, they edit, they persist. Think of leaders who build organizations, parents who raise children, inventors who create, athletes who win. Behind every success story, you will not find constant motivation. You will find relentless discipline. Discipline is not glamorous. No one applauds you for choosing water instead of soda, for reading instead of scrolling, for working instead of procrastinating. These are quiet victories unseen by the world. But they accumulate. They build strength. They build skill. They build integrity. And eventually, The world sees the results and calls them talent or luck or destiny. But it was discipline all along, the hours in the dark that no one clapped for, the choices made when no one was watching, the persistence kept when no one encouraged you. That is what creates greatness. Motivation may get you started, but only discipline keeps you moving when applause fades. The truth is, motivation often follows discipline, not the other way around. People think they need to feel motivated before they act. But often, when you act first, motivation shows up. You start exercising when you don't want to, and after a few minutes, energy and motivation rise. You start writing when you don't feel like it, and after a few sentences, ideas begin to flow. You start working when you feel tired, and after progress is made, you feel inspired. Waiting for motivation is a trap. Acting with discipline creates its own motivation. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. The person who learns discipline no longer fears inconsistency. They know they can rely on themselves. They know they will act no matter how they feel. That confidence is priceless. Most people are prisoners of their moods. They feel good, they act. They feel bad, they quit. Their entire life is dictated by emotion. But when you embrace discipline, you rise above that. You choose your actions instead of letting your emotions choose for you. You become the master of your days instead of the victim of your moods. Building discipline starts small. You don't become a master of discipline overnight. You start by keeping one small promise to yourself every day. Wake up at a set time, drink water, read a page, do a workout, write a paragraph. The size doesn't matter, the consistency does. Each small act strengthens your willpower. Each small win proves to yourself that you can be trusted. Over time, these small disciplines expand into larger ones. But you must begin with something manageable, and you must keep it. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Neglect it, and it weakens. But train it, and it becomes unbreakable. When you live with discipline, you build momentum. You do not have to decide every day whether you will act, because the decision has already been made. Motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Discipline says, it doesn't matter how I feel, I do it anyway. That consistency compounds into momentum, and momentum makes success inevitable. The people who achieve greatness are not those who are always motivated. They are those who made discipline their lifestyle. So ask yourself, do you want to be at the mercy of fleeting motivation, or do you want the power of unshakable discipline? Do you want to chase the feeling of being inspired, or do you want the results that come from being consistent? Do you want to wait for life to push you, or do you want to be the one who moves no matter what? Motivation is a spark, discipline is the fire. Motivation is a mood, discipline is a decision. Motivation is the wish, discipline is the will. And in the end, discipline is what carries you to the life you want.